Hi, I'm Dennis with TeraFlex. We have got a brand new 2012 JK on the lift here today. We just wanted to show you a couple of changes that Chrysler has made in these JKs that will affect your Jeep in the event you decide to lift it. The first one being the front exhaust crossover and your drive line. It's really a tight tolerance that's running there. We've actually loosened the shock bolts and so forth on this front axle. We want to let it down just a little bit just to show you how far you can go before that exhaust makes contact. Okay. Whoa. Okay, we're actually, bring it up, we're about just barely off it right there. With the axle drop down, we can see where the shock fully extended is and where the axle is fully drooped until that driveline made contact. If we just measure that distance, we're just, just a 2.25 inches is all we've dropped this axle. So we lowered the axle 2.25 inches. So if we put any type of a lift on this at all, we're going to exceed the limit that the shock provides for the axle, and that front driveline is going to make contact with that exhaust pipe. The exhaust system is actually moved forward further than it used to be on older models. So all we need to do is bring this crossover pipe closer to that cross member, and it'll gain us enough clearance that we can go ahead and lift the vehicle and still maintain some clearance between it and the axle. We wanted to try and modify this exhaust system as little as possible. The Chrysler engineers put a lot of effort into this exhaust, and it will affect your performance if you change it very much. So what we're going to do is we're just going to insert a couple of these little spacers. We've got a long and a short. The short one's going to go on the driver's side. The long one will be on the passenger side. The reason for that is this pipe is coming down as well as back. So with just a little more length, we're going to gain the distance back that we're trying to get. The other side is pretty much straight back, so we didn't need quite as much distance. So we're just going to loosen up the flanges on both sides. Got one here and the one on the driver's side. And then we'll just slide the exhaust system back a little bit, put our two spacers in, and that'll give us the distance we need to clear. Use a 13mm and remove the 4 exhaust flange bolts at the left and right crossover pipe collectors. Now to help with exhaust hanger position, loosen the Y pipe clamp where the Y is joining the front and rear sections of pipe. Remove the indexing stop. Now that's a small spot welded stop on the intermediate pipe where it's clamped into the Y pipe. Now that stop can be easily removed with an air chisel or a hand chisel or even a cutoff wheel on a die grinder. This will allow the pipe to slide further into the Y pipe to compensate for those spacers and the repositioning of that crossover pipe. The exhaust system can be easily pried back by using a pry bar between the front skid bar and the exhaust flange on the driver's side. Install the spacers in both sides before tightening. Now the short spacer is going to go in the driver's side pipe, while the longer spacer will be used in the passenger side. Position the spacers so that they line up the two sections of pipe as much as possible before tightening. Install the extended 8mm bolts provided in the kit and tighten them using that 13mm. Make sure there is good clearance around the exhaust system. Look closely by the flange where the driver's side pipe bends up over the front cross member. Also check where the pipe goes up over the rear axle. Now the top of the pipe gets pretty close to the floor cross member there, so make sure you have clearance. We've checked all our tolerances and everything clears nicely. The last step we need to do is to tighten up the clamp on that Y pipe. Once we've tightened that, let's move forward and take a look at that front driveline and just see what kind of clearance we've gained. As we lower it down, we can see that we can now measure a little over 5 inches of droop. We started out, it only dropped 2 inches before we ran out of clearance. We've gained a little over 3 inches. Now, it's important to note that it doesn't matter what we do suspension-wise, moving exhaust, or anything else. We have pretty much maxed out that driveline angle. We can see here that that driveline cannot go any further without cutting the boot. If you lift your Jeep more than 3 inches, you will definitely need to replace that front driveline. I hope this helps you. I'm Dennis with TeraFlex. We'll talk to you next time.